All right. So this message is titled Being a Professional. And as I put in the email, I said, hey, I think this is a really important call. I'm hoping you can all attend. And if you don't attend, I'm hoping you can watch the video. And I plan on following up with all of the owners in the organization by Monday. So some of you that are watching this video, I will be following up and I hope you respond. But there's really three categories I want to cover, and I'll get into the why here in a second. But the three categories are communication, responsibility, and being organized, or you could call it being a good planner. Okay, so those are the three categories that I really want to dive into. Your communication, or my communication, our communication, responsibility, and being organized. And so I've been wanting to run this call for a while due to some concerns and trends that I've seen. And believe me, these concerns and trends aren't unique to our company. I have friends that work in other companies like Cisco, and they're taking note of the same observations. And so I hesitated to run this really for a couple of years. I've been wanting to run a call like this. And I've hesitated because I don't want to come across condemning. I don't want to be the guy condemning. I think Ken Blanchard calls it seagull leadership, right? You fly in, you crap all over people, and then you fly away. That's the last thing I want to do. I don't want to be a seagull leader here. And I don't want to make any assumptions either. I mean, everyone has their own specific reasons for why they do what they do. And I don't want to assume that I know the cause for someone's behavior. And I decided to run this call because I really think that we're doing a disservice to you, to everybody, if we don't talk about this stuff. I think we're just really doing a disservice. So I thought, you know what, let me roll the dice. I appreciate you guys all joining this call, and I'd love to hear your thoughts after. But here goes. Here's some of the observations that I have had, and I'm assuming you too have observed the same things. And I'll get into the solutions at the end of this call. Observation number one, some people it is difficult to get a hold of. There's a person in particular I'm thinking of, no names mentioned. And I'm like, and I had this conversation. I'm like, man, how do I get a hold of you? I call, you don't pick up. I text, you don't pick up. I email, you don't respond. And this individual laughed and said, Snapchat. I'm like, really? Snap is the best way to get a hold of you? They're like, yeah. And so I tried. Now I'm not much of a snapper. Okay? You guys don't see me much on Snapchat. And I tried getting a hold of the guy, and sure enough, he was quick to respond on Snapchat, but was like, I got ghosted on every other platform. But some people are really difficult to get a hold of. Another observation is missed communication completely, like either attendance or tardiness. There's some missed communication. And the third observation is just a lack of engagement on calls. And maybe some would say, listen, we got zoomed out over COVID, man. And so then maybe that's the lack of engagement, but it's an observation that's happened. So some specific, if I want to get into some of the specifics, just again, under the category of observations I've had over the last couple of years. And Brennan articulated this because I've been asking, like, why? What's been happening? And he says, we've kind of had this choose your own adventure mindset, right? Like you go to NatCon as an example. Hey, choose your own adventure. Here's the 7 workshops happening. You're going to choose one of them. And I think this choose your own adventure mindset has turned into a lack of communication and a lack of accountability. I'll give you another specific observation I've had. I had a very difficult owner had a difficult conversation with an owner. And I know this owner to be of the utmost character. I look at this owner with, like, when I think integrity, this owner's all about integrity. But the owner's reps thought that he was shady. And this really hurt. So that's why he's having a conversation. Jamie, like, he was upset with his leaders. He was hurt with his leaders. Like, my guys look at me like I'm shady. And I'm like, well, why do they look at you like you're shady? Like, you're not a shady person. You're very trustworthy. And when I unpacked it, well, go to find out that there was a lot of over promising and under delivering. Promised bonus that was supposed to be paid, yet, oh, I forgot. Now, again, that's going to be interpreted as, hey, you ripped me off. You told me I'm going to get a bonus and I didn't. You totally ripped me off. You're shady. He just forgot. He was unorganized. He said he'd be somewhere. Remember, his recruiter was upset. He'd be in the office for interviews, and then he no-showed for interviews, again, because he was unorganized. But people that he worked with really thought he was shady. And again, I know he's not shady. But again, the behavior was interpreted as shady, as poor character, because he lacked communication and he lacked organization. And just the last specific, observation is just really no call, no show. I've just seen too much no call, no show. I had a one-on-one scheduled with somebody yesterday, and it was a no call, no show. Now, and I'm thinking with owners, when you have a no call, no show in your office, I'm assuming none of you tolerate no call, no show. I'd be shocked if any of you tell me, Jamie, come on, man, the year is 2023. You got to get with the times. I'm totally tolerant of my reps being no call, no shows. For those of us in retail, I mean, you can't have no call, no shows in stores. I mean, they're not going to, be cool with that. They're not going to tolerate. So I'm going to shift gears here. I want to get into some solutions, but those are my observations. Any commentary, any questions? I got a note that says my internet's unstable. I hope you guys can hear me. Any questions to the observations? Anything anybody wants to add on? I want to just start with that. And again, I don't want to come across in Siegel leadership and just crap on people.
Just could you repeat that one more time, Jamie? You said that there's 3 areas you're focused on: communication, responsibility. What was the third one?
Being organized, being a good planner.
Okay. Thank you.
You and your calendar have a relationship. I would just hope that it's a good relationship. Some people in their calendar got divorced, and that's not a good situation to be in. Okay, so here's my solutions. And some of these, I'm really hoping that you guys take away some good action items. I mean, listen, we all, myself included, we all have room for improvement with communication, responsibility, and being organized. Everybody's got room for improvement. And so I'm hoping that I'm going to give you some good action items and really make you pause and think and maybe add some layers to your game. But here's my solutions. I've got really 3 solutions, and then we're going to open this up to dialogue. Number 1 is come up with a communication protocol. Okay, a communication protocol. Now, when I think, I just want to give a few subcategories to this, right? Like emails, calls, text, and Zoom. I came up with like 4 subcategories. Like, so a communication protocol. For example, I'll just give you an example I have with a phone call, right? I had, Franco and I, we've been talking a lot more lately. And so, Franco would call. I saw a missed call from Franco, but no voicemail. And I said and so he was under the assumption, heck, that means call me back. Okay. I called you. I didn't leave a voicemail because nobody does that in the year 2023. And so I said to him, I'm like, hey, Franco, I'm going to assume, first of all, you should all call me and listen to my voicemail because I think it's the best voicemail in the world. So if you get a chance, call my cell phone, listen to it. Wiggins has Mick Jagger on his voicemail. Ed Cunliffe's got a new voicemail too. You should call him, maybe listen to his message. But I said, Franco, if you didn't leave a voicemail, I'm just assuming it was a butt dial. He's like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, yeah, leave a detailed voicemail. I'd rather you leave a 60-second voicemail and I'll listen to it. I'll get to it. And heck, we could throw a couple voicemails back and forth and not even have to talk. But I want to communicate my protocol to people. That's just my protocol. I'm not saying you guys have to adopt a Jamie Heppism here, but just have your protocol. Okay. So email, this one's a big one. Just because I know a lot of people you detest emails, and I get it. We're spammed to death. And anytime I see a Sidcor employee spamming you guys, I'm all over them like a dirty shirt. And I tell them, listen, if you can't tweet the message, don't send a long email because we're just not going to read it. Okay. And a lot of you guys are smiling. You agree with that train of thought. But listen, if I'm the guy that doesn't check my email, okay, if I'm just like a mess with my email, I'm talking to a handful of you here, right? If I'm a mess with my email, I'm going to do one of two things. I'm going to set up an auto respond that says, listen, I don't check my emails. Try texting me. So somebody sends you an email, it just comes back like, oh, he's not even going to read this. So do that. Don't assume people understand your communication protocol. If you just are an anti-email guy, set up an auto respond that says, I don't check my emails, text me. Or if I'm like, well, I want to get better at email, but I've got 10,000 emails. I've had this thing since college and it's just loaded and it's a mess. Well, then you know what? Get a fresh email and start over. Last I checked, they're free. So start with a new email and let people know, here's my new email address. And maybe let's get a redo on the email. But have some type of communication protocol for your email. With calls, I'll tell you where, I have this is the same for calling and texting, and I'm not saying you guys need to adopt mine. I'm telling, again, my pitch to you, have your protocol. Here's my protocol with texting and phone calls. It's the 24-hour rule. And so if somebody calls me or somebody texts me, within 24 hours, I will respond. And I'm sure all of you can nod on the call that any of you that have ever tried to get a hold of me, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. I don't ghost anybody. I just find that think about it. When you've been ghosted, have you ever tried getting a hold of somebody and they don't call you back, they don't text you back? How did they make you feel? It doesn't feel good to be ghosted. Now, I'll tell you, years ago when I'm new in the business, right? Old school days, this is back to the DS Max days, and I'm calling the big dog, Larry Tenenbaum. I was kind of nervous as a new owner, but I called Larry and I was shocked. I'd get a return phone call like a couple hours later. Hey, Jamie, it's Larry calling you back. What's going on? I'm like, Larry, I heard you were in Hong Kong. He says, yeah, I'm in Hong Kong. I'm like, what time is it there? Oh, it's 3:30 in the morning. What do you need? And he wanted a quick, he returned my call. He didn't want to chit chat, believe me. He wanted a 60-second phone call. What do you want? And he connected me to the right person. But I would always get off a call with Larry feeling so important. It's interesting. Every time I'd call Larry, I'd feel important. And I would hope that all of us as professionals, you want to make people feel important to you. So you can't ghost them. I heard this from Gary Polson years ago. He says, a lot of times we're not going to remember a lot of things about people, but we'll always remember how people made us feel. Right? Larry is one of those guys that just always made me feel important. And I knew I'm the guy in the bottom of the totem pole, man. I'm not important. I'm the rookie owner that hadn't even proven himself yet. But Larry always made me feel important, made me feel like $1 million. And so I adopted the 24-hour rule because I got that from Larry Tenenbaum. So have your protocol. Your Zoom protocol, right? So what's your Zoom protocol? My suggestion is you engage and turn your camera on. I find that to be respectful, kind of like the 24-hour thing. Unless if you can't, okay, you're sitting in the lobby of a doctor's office, you might not want to turn your camera on. I get it. You let the host know that you're turning your camera off. Again, just come up with your system, your protocol. Like, okay, I'm on a Zoom, my camera's on. And in those infrequent times where I can't turn my camera on, I can't look like I'm paying attention or really paying attention. I'm going to let the host know that my camera is going to be off. Please excuse me, but I'll be on the call. I'll be listening. Okay, so those are just 4. Again, email, text, call, Zoom, communication protocol. Identify your communication protocol. And just as I said with Franco, communicate your protocol. I know, again, if I don't get a voicemail, I'm assuming it's a butt dial. I know most people don't operate that way. But again, I communicate how I like to communicate. And so Franco knows now every time he calls me, he leaves me a detailed voicemail and we can get down to business real quick because I've already heard his voicemail. But again, that's Jamie. Okay, number two. Okay, first one's communication protocol. Number two, plan your week. Plan your week. Now, this one, I think you guys are going to be surprised to hear, but you need to hear this one. If there is a call on your calendar, right? Somebody's emailed you, maybe it's me. Hey guys, we got a workshop call, and this week I've got blah, blah, blah. You're like, you know what? This call's just not important to me. I can't tell you how many times I've had this convo, but I encourage you guys to have this convo. If there are calls coming on your calendar, people are trying to get your time and it's not important, let them know that the call isn't important and you'd like to be removed from the list. Like maybe some of you didn't know that you have that option, but last I checked, you own a company. You're the big dog. You're the owner. So somebody wants to get you on a call, but you know what? I've been on a bunch of these calls and they're just not important. So if one of you were to contact me and say, hey, listen, Jamie, these workshop calls aren't important, I'm telling you, I will not be offended. I will not be offended. I will learn something from that. Of course, I'll ask you like, hey, so what is it about these calls that's just not adding value? I mean, I'm okay getting that information. I mean, how else is a person going to improve if they're not getting feedback? But again, if the call isn't important, and believe me, I say I've had this call so many, or this kind of conversation so many times. So many of the calls I'm invited to just have no value to me. And so instead of ghosting the host, I let them know, don't expect me on the call, and please remove me from the distribution list because I'm not going to be on any of the calls going forward. You're allowed to have that conversation. Like, just don't make people guess. Don't have people assume that you're going to be on, then you ghost them. Again, how people feel, right? Just, it's all about how people feel. If you are looking at you're planning your week, oh, okay, there's a call coming on. It's campaign call. Okay, of course I'm going to be on. So I'm going to be on the call. I'm planning my week. Or you're looking at it, you're like, well, this call is important, but I'm going to miss it this week. You just let the host know that you're not going to be on this week's call, but you're not asking to be removed from the distribution. Like, I'll see you on the next week's call, but I can't make this week's call. Like, again, right before this call, I got a text from Urbe saying, I can't be on the call, Jamie. And I'm like, hey, great. Thanks for letting me know. The hosts always appreciate that. Now, maybe he'll call me after hearing this message and say, actually, Jamie, please remove me from all emails. I don't want to be in any more of your calls. And again, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. Here's another thing with planning your week that maybe some of you haven't thought of. I mean, I'm sure most of you have read Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Work Week. Just nod if you've read that book. Okay, so he says, well, listen, I mean, he's a big fan of outsourcing everything, obviously. I mean, how else are you going to work a 4-hour work week? You outsource. Well, how many of you guys have looked into getting a personal assistant in India? Now, I used to run bonuses in my office for reps that you'd get for a month. You'd get a personal assistant in India. It would hardly cost any money. It cost, I think, maybe $30 for the month, like $1 a day. And you'd have an assistant you could text or call. And, you know, if you want to set it up right, they have your credit card as well, too. So, hey, I need you to get my wife some flowers, and I want the message to say XYZ. And they'll do all that. They'll do the heavy lifting. You can have a personal assistant without spending 50 grand a year on a personal assistant. So if some of you guys feel like, man, I'm just really bogged down, planning my week is difficult, you are living in a time and age where having a personal assistant is a real thing. Again, I would run it as a bonus for my reps. So certainly as an owner, you guys could get a personal assistant. If not, if you don't want to go the I don't have a personal assistant in India. I don't do that. But that just means my calendar and I need to be tight. We need to be buddies. We're good friends, me and my calendar. We collaborate. I plan the attack and I attack the plan. But before the week begins, I see what's going on. I'll cancel some calls. I'll let hosts know I won't be on this call. Today I was on a call, didn't turn my camera on Zoom. I let the host know, listen, I won't be on the call. I'll spare you the details. Why not? Sorry, I won't be my camera on. Spare you the details. Like, hey, no problem. Okay. And it might be a good idea. Think about this when you're hearing this. It might be a good idea to get a Covey overview. Maybe read that chapter, put first things first to get the right system in place. Might be a good idea. And then my last thought, okay, is we might need to think bigger. Okay, so you're a business owner. I respect that. My question to you is, what kind of business owner are you? Some people act like a small business owner. And listen, we all start off as small business owners, everybody. Amazon started off as a small business. Okay, Google started off as a small business. They grew to become very large enterprises. A small business owner says, I can do what I want. I'm the boss. I don't need accountability. But as you scale, as you grow a business, accountability is a part of it. Think of a public company. Think of a public CEO. Well, they're held accountable by a board of directors. So you want your business to grow. I mean, you got to look at it like, hey, people are holding me accountable. I can't just have the attitude of like, well, I run this company, like I can't get fired. No, you can. Steve Jobs got fired from his own company. Or if you're like, well, I'm not going to ever run a public company, Jamie. Well, if you're going to become a consultant, listen, a rookie consultant, a starting consultant is running a $5 million a year enterprise. Okay. There's anywhere between 10 to 20 companies associated with that business. That's a pretty big business. Hey, $5 million in revenue. That's no joke. Well, again, there's a level of accountability when you're running an organization like that. The last thing you want, like the example I gave before, you don't want your guys looking at you like you're unreliable or shady, overpromise, underdeliver. So you are accountable. So sometimes I just wonder if our owners are thinking like small business owners. I do what I want to do. I busted my hump through the field so I could run my own company, Jamie. I'm my own boss. Small business owner. Big business owner, hey, I want accountability. I want to scale this thing. I want sharp people on my team. Well, hey, you want sharp people on your team? You got to be super accountable. Because sharp people aren't going to stick around with somebody that's unreliable. So those are my thoughts. Those are my solutions. I kind of rambled on for around 25 minutes or so. So I'm curious, questions, thoughts. I hope nobody feels like I'm condemning and I hesitated, but I want to, again, I really feel like I owe you this type of conversation so we level up as professionals. I see Stephen Garcia said Siegel style. Yeah, I hope not. I hope not. Listen, I'm working on this too. If I'm crapping on anybody, I'm crapping on myself too. Communication, organization, right? We all have room for improvement, responsibility. Thoughts or questions?
I think it's just easy to think that the small things don't really matter when in actuality they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, I care about how people look at you guys, right? So, right, like you think about it, if any of you, I think we all are on the same page with this. If you guys are at a team night and you've got a rep on your team who's, let's say it's a guy and he's, propositioning a girl or something, the team night, you're like, dude, this guy's got a girlfriend. If he cheats on his girlfriend, isn't he going to cheat on you? I mean, so we all kind of look at it like that, right? So, so again, your character's on display in a world of 360 degrees, people above you, people below you, people beside you. So again, how you interact and treat people, whether it be at Sidcore or you're promoting owner or whatever, I mean, that will come out in how you deal with your people. So to me, this is really all about you guys being just great leaders for your people. And again, if you're on point with your communication, you're responsible, you're a great planner, then I know you're coming through for your people big time. I know there's a chat going on, but I'm not looking at it. Anybody want to verbally say something?
You got 3 tips for how to better plan your week?
Well, I mean, listen, I could run like a 30-minute to an hour thing on each one of these. Again, even like the email thing. Listen, if I hopped on a Zoom call with you guys just on like my email protocol and you saw my folders, you'd be like, damn. Right. So super organized, right? Like, geez, if I ever lost my Gmail account, I don't know what I do type of thing. Right. So it's my whole life is really systemized there. Same thing with planning. So I don't think in 60 seconds I could give a great tip other than, hey, we're habits of creature. Just do your planning on the same day of the week at the same time in the same place. Just become that creature of habit and then just stop. Like you just pull over. You know, Covey always makes a joke. Like, you ever find that you're so busy driving, you don't have time to pull over and get gas? Okay, like pull over and get some gas. I know it's $7 a gallon in California now. It's sad, but you got to pull over, you got to get gas, you got to tune up, wash the windshield, but like stop, pause, be slow, get the thoughts out of your head. Don't be watching TV while you're planning. Don't listen to something while you're planning. You need quiet time. Like quiet. You should hear the birds chirping when you're planning. And by the time you're done, here's how you know you're a pretty good planner. By the time you're done, you're nodding, you're saying to yourself, man, it's going to be a great week. Like it's buttoned up, it's planned well. I one time asked Gary about his printing business way back in the old day, like how risky that was and how much anxiety he must have had because all of his money was tied up in equipment and, it seemed very stressful. And he says, Jamie, I planned it so well, I took risk out of the equation. I'm like, wow. He took risk out of the equation because it was buttoned up. Anybody could have executed the plan because it was such a good plan.
Question, Jamie.
Yes, sir.
Have we thought about maybe going back to running the workshops based off of where you're at in the business? I know when I first got promoted, you had us separated and you would put us where we're at. If you're a rookie owner, you're in this breakout. If you're a PO, you're in this breakout. I think those were a lot of, helpful. And I think you had a lot of attendance through those things because, people wanted to get better based off of where they was at. So have we thought about that or?
Yeah. And really the point of this call isn't just for me and my observations on these workshop calls, Coach. This is happening. Listen, I was talking to Vera. Vera has people that miss one-on-one calls with her. No call, no show. Like, so I'm kind of talking more on a macro level, like, hey, let's be professionals here. Right. But yeah, I'm asking those questions that you're asking, like, hey, listen, I don't want to do something today because that's what we've always done. Like, I want to figure out a way to add the most value. I mean, should we be more tactical on call? Should we categorize? Okay, rookie owners here, POs here. Plus there's all these different layers of consultants. So you've got Sebastian running calls over here. You've got, Gareth running calls. Brandon's now running calls with his org. So, so it's kind of, I'm just trying to figure out where to best fit in to add as much value as I can to the team. But short answer, I'm open to doing whatever. However I can add the most value, Coach, I'm there. I mean, my big picture, and I want to make this clear, you guys should all know this, when that $1 million bonus gets paid out, there better be 10 people, 10 or more people from our crew that are hanging out, picking up these big fat checks. If it's not 10, I will really feel like I let you guys down. So I'm all about you guys getting promoted, your rookie owners doing well. So however I fit into that equation, everything I do is all about getting 10 or more consultants when that payout happens. And right now we're guessing the first payout's happening in 2027. So short answer, yes. Okay.
I'm
Yeah, but
definitely
this
going
goes
to look
for
for
all
that
calls.
personal assistant.
Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
I'm definitely looking for that personal assistant. That's like a
Yeah.
life goal to afford one. So I'm like, oh, there's a cheaper way. Great.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try
Google,
that.
yeah, just Google India. I mean, now with Chat GPT, like who knows? You know, like the world's going to get weird that you could have some AI bot that's assisting you. I see when Sabs logs in with Zoom, he's got some kind of Chat GPT taking notes for him or something like that. So, but yeah, it's cheap. Again, this was 10 years ago too. Like I can just imagine how much better it is today. um, $30 a month. Somebody from India, very pleasant every time you call. Hey, how can I help you? And of course, in that business, they're doing this for multiple people. It's not like they're just making $30 a month. They're making 30 a month times however many people that they're working for. But yeah, you guys can all have a personal assistant in India, like for pennies on the dollar. So my Siri voice is from India to make it feel kind of real, you know, like my Siri voice. All right. Anything else? You guys good? I mean, I've given you lots to chew the fat on. Like, probably the biggest thing, like, I haven't really thought about my communication protocol. Well, think about it and let us know how you communicate. And again, adopt things like 24-hour rule. Think of how people feel that are trying to communicate with you. I mean, nobody feels good when they're ghosted. I promise you that. Nobody feels good about that. So again, give me some feedback. If you guys liked the call, let me know. If you did not like the call, you felt like there's some Siegel stuff going on here, let me know. But let's level up. Let's become more and more professional here. Let's lead bigger and bigger organizations. That's really the plan. So thanks for listening to me, guys. Thanks for logging in. We'll talk soon.